am honored to introduce our today's speaker, Professor Namsoon Kang. She is a professor of theology and religion at Brite Divinity School at Texas Christian University. She has previously taught at the Faculty of Divinity at the University of Cambridge in the UK, as well as at Methodist Theological University in Seoul, South Korea. Writing in both English and Korean, her most recent English language books include Cosmopolitan, Theology, and Diasporic Feminist Theology. Both, the last one was published by Fortress Press. She also co-edited the Handbook of Theological Education in World Christianity, published by Regnum Books. This is the imprint of the Oxford Center for Mission Studies. Her teaching, research, and writing emerge from transdisciplinary spaces, with particular theoretical interest in cosmopolitanism, apophatic theology and philosophy, postmodernism, postcolonialism, feminism, and diaspora studies. She is a highly regarded speaker. She delivered lectures and keynote addresses around the world, including in Brazil, Canada, Fiji, Germany, Greece, Hong Kong, Jamaica, India, Indonesia, Japan, Korea, the Philippines, South Africa, Switzerland, Thailand, the United Kingdom, the United States, and now we can say the Ukraine. So thank you for joining us today. It's a pleasure and honor. The microphone is yours, Professor Namsoon Kang.
Hi, good morning and good afternoon and good evening. It is really interesting that we all are living in a different time zone. In Texas here, this is like 10 a.m. in the morning. And I noticed that somewhere, you are living in the time zone of in the afternoon and then evening. So I would say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And I have lived in 4 different countries. Of course, I was born in South Korea, and then I went for Germany to study, and then in the States, and then later on, I had to live in England, UK, to teach. And my scholarly question has already something to do with my personal life journey. And I do not have any interest in pure abstract scholarly discourses if that discourses doesn't really relate to my own life journey. So you can see the keyword in my lecture title today, that there is a kind of concept, diaspora, homelessness, or the displacement, and kind of cosmopolitanism and hospitality. So these are the keywords that reflect somehow my personal journey. And also I try to understand my experience in my life journey in terms of how to theorize, how to philosophize, how to theologize my personal experience into such a term that can have more general or universal relevance. So today I'm going to talk about those issues. And one of the reasons that I decided not to use PowerPoint in my teaching and in my lecture is that my teaching philosophy begins with faith. Faith as empirical site and also as a metaphorical site. Because one of the philosophers that I am really deeply influenced, not by scholarly work, but also in my personal life, is Jacques Derrida and Immanuel Levinas. And Immanuel Levinas, he talks about this faith. It was really shocking for me that the faith, human faith, can be the really philosophical, theological side that we can talk about. So for the couple of years in my teaching career, of course, I tried to use all the nice fancy PowerPoint because I was so ambitious to to transmit all my knowledge in my brain into my student. And I realized that when I opened the slide PowerPoint, my student or participant do not look at my face. They just look at the screen, which is really against my teaching philosophy. So after a couple of years of attempt, try, I decided not to use PowerPoint. So whenever I am asked, whether in my teaching or lecture, I said, no, I'm not going to use PowerPoint because it is against my teaching philosophy that begins with the singular face of who we are. Because the Immanuel Levinas, he says, the face is the ethical side. When you look at the face of the other, what can you do? You cannot, the face resists any kind of possession, any kind of occupation, any kind of domination. So when you look at the face of the other, that's the ethical side. That's the side of unconditional responsibility for us to say yes to the other. So I was just so moved by this Levinasian, the philosophy of faith. So I adopt the philosophy of faith by Levinas and also Derrida, that we all have a kind of singular faith that indicates each and every one of us has its own unique, irreplaceable existence in the world. So faith precedes any kind of identity. Faith precedes your name. So even if I do not know your name, when I look at the face of the other, I have to acknowledge, I have to affirm who you are as who you are. It was really a kind of revolutionary experience for me to see all kinds of theories from a totally different perspective. So that's why I do not use any PowerPoint. And some of you might be feeling odd that how come she doesn't use any PowerPoint. This is my intention not to use PowerPoint because I don't believe in banking education. There is I think you may familiar with the name, Paulo Freire, who talks about there are two kinds of education. One is banking education, and the other one is problem-posing education. So I don't believe in banking education because there is only just a transaction, right? So some would say that you become teaching machine. You have all kinds of knowledge over here, and then you have a desire to transmit, what you know to the intellectual account of your audience or of your student. So that kind of banking in education doesn't really work because what we are doing here is how to ask critical question. So I believe that whatever you do here is that how to raise our consciousness to see the world from a critical perspective. That's why otherwise we cannot make any kind of change. We just become the passive bystander for what's going on in the world. So I absolutely agree with what Hannah Arendt says. Evil is the absence of critical thinking. And whether I'm giving lecture or teaching or whatever, I always think that the readers or the listeners of my lecture can find the little tools with which you can utilize to make a change in your own context. I do not have any illusion that what I speak, what I teach, what I write can make a really huge revolutionary change in the world. I don't believe that kind of revolution anymore. And what I hope that through my writing, through my speaking, through my teaching, I hope that the participant can find little tools with which they can really make a change, whether it's big or small. After my, doctorate, I had two post-it on my desk. One is fighting with pen. And then the other one is a small change can make a big difference. So whenever I wrestle with my own internal defeatism, sense of defeatism, like no matter how hard I try, nothing will change. This is more like an internal sense of defeatism. And then I remind myself that what I am doing now, I'm really benefiting from all the seed of the change that somewhere, sometime people planted. So I have to try to redeem myself from the trap of defeatism. So fighting with pen and then a small change can make a big difference. It is a kind of motto, daily motto for me to redeem myself from this trap of sense of defeatism. I hope that you sort of share this sense of a desire to overcome your own internal sense of defeatism, especially what you are doing here through the Summer School of Theology. I was so amazed at your resilience, your passion to make a change in this world of despair, this hopelessness. So even if my summer schedule was so hectic, I said yes to the invitation because there is, a different way of to give a kind of moral support for what we are doing. And so I name it as intellectual moral support to what we are doing in, around the Ukraine. So please accept my lecture as an sort of, my gesture for the moral support for what we are doing. And so I was so moved for the passion and resilience of what you are doing through this Summer School of Theology and in particular and this Eastern European Institute of Theology in general, because I researched a lot about your website, what you are doing, and I was just so amazed. The first speaker, John Caputo and Catherine Keller. Catherine Keller is my the doctoral, Dr. Mutter. She said, please regard me as Dr. Schwester, Dr. Sister, to make a kind of horizontal relationship, not hierarchical relationship. So she was my Dr. Schwester, Dr. Sister, long ago, and I was so happy to see that they were also giving such an, the endless intellectual moral support for what you are doing in the midst of this despair and conflict. So thank you for what you are doing. And I noticed that there is a linguistic dilemma here because I think most of us, the English is not our mother tongue, but somehow we have to speak in the language that are not our own. Here, there is a double bind of translation. According to the Jacques Derrida, there is a necessity and impossibility. So translation and interpretation is always necessary. So I really appreciate the interpreter. I do not know who that is, that he or she, they would be the ones who really wrestling a lot you have to really focus on what's going on, and then you do not have any time to release yourself from that kind of tension. So I really appreciate your hard work, and I hope that you also get a kind of sense of rewarding, not visibly but invisibly, that what you are doing is really connecting all of us, everywhere, everyone in one, channel of communication. So I really appreciate you, all the work that you are doing. So, because this kind of the limitation of this language, I also think about the language is not just a means of communication. The language, it really reflects the your mode of being in the world and your mode of seeing the world. So we have to be a kind of dancer between all different kind of mode of seeing the world through the different languages. So somehow we have to be really intentional to communicate to each other. As I said, my life journey has been in many different places: South Korea, Germany, USA, England, UK. And then I have to go back and forth in many different places for the work or for my life. And then I realized that whenever I go abroad, which means not outside Korea, I usually get two questions. I hope that I think that all of you here, if you are not residing in the country where you are born, the first question that you may be asked a lot is, where are you from? Where are you from? Even if I have lived in the States for more than like 2 decades, because of my study and also my work at this university. This is my 20th years at this university. And I had to spend more than 7, 8 years for my master's and doctoral degrees in the States. But still, people ask this question. If I go outside and if I do not know them, they ask this question, where are you from? It is obvious that because of my skin color, they ask this question. So, of course, when I was first asked this question in Germany, of course, my answer was, okay, I'm from South Korea, because I noticed that that's what they want to hear. And then later on, I realized that this question can mean so many different things. So I began wondering and exploring what this question, seemingly very simple question, where are you from, can have different kind of implication in our socio-political context. So you have to ask a question, okay, this question of where are you from, we have to ask the question, who is asking this question? If those who are asking this question to you simply because your skin color is not like the same, then the question can imply, it doesn't matter whether the questioner has that kind of intentionality, the question can imply that they are claiming the sense of ownership of the space. Whereas I belong here as a person with a white body, you do not belong here. So I ask a question, where are you from? Right? If your English has an accent, or if your body doesn't have any white body, like me, usually those questions are asked by those who has a white body, and also by those whose English is a mother tongue. So my linguistic accent and my physical body, which is not white, pursuing them to claiming the ownership of the space, whether or not they intended. And then, so that was why I was drawn to this cosmopolitan questions. And then second question that you are asked, if you are not living in the country where you're born, this who are you? This who are you question can mean so different things. So the Jacques Derrida says this who are you question is in a way a kind of threshold question, liminal question. The question can mean the question of hospitality. And then you have to look at the face. You have to look at the face, right? What is your, whether the question is who are you question is question of hospitality or question of hostility, you have to look at the face. If you are writing down the question, you don't know. You have no idea whether this question is a question of hospitality or a question of hostility. When you look at the face of the other, if someone asks you, who are you? With a smile, what can you tell? Oh, this is a question of hospitality, and the person who asked this question wants to know more about me, genuine curiosity to know more about me. But if you look at the face of the questioner who are asking this question, who are you? Without smile, without a kind of a sense of gaze of suspicion, gaze of interrogation, who are you? Then the question becomes a question of hostility. So these two questions, if you are living a diasporic life, usually one way or the other, you are asked these two kinds of questions. Where are you from? Who are you? So these two questions are around this, the theme that I'm going to talk about today. Where are you from? Who are you? Whether this question can be the question of hostility or question of hospitality depends on the face of the other. So that's why Jacques Derrida says the hospitality is impossible without smile. When I first came across this line, I was just so puzzled. Why smile? Because a smile is a smile. Why the Derrida gives such a meaning to smile? So when you look at the hospitality issue, Immanuel Kant, who popularized the term cosmopolitan rights and cosmopolitan hospitality, Derrida goes along with Immanuel Kant, and then later on, Derrida departs from Immanuel Kant. This is my interpretation, of course, because Immanuel Kant, hospitality is possible without smile, because it is our ethical duty. But for Derrida, genuine hospitality is impossible without smile. Because what is a smile? Smiling is the essence of genuine hospitality, because hospitality is the welcoming the other, right? When you say hospitality is welcoming the other. And when you are really truly welcoming the other, how your language, your body language would say. You cannot just say, without smile, I welcome you. It doesn't really transmit to the person who are regarded as a guest that, oh, the host is really truly welcoming me. No, without smile, genuine hospitality is impossible. So these are the sort of points of entry that I'm entering with you, because somehow we have to begin somewhere, and you have to understand where Namsoon is, departing these are my perception of what's going on in the world around this issue of displacement, being diaspora, and hospitality. If you look at the Bible, it is really interesting to see that God commanded Abraham to leave the home country. According to the Bible, Abraham was 75 years old. I don't know whether that can be translated in this biological the age in on our time, 75 years old. But somehow that's what it says. And God doesn't provide any reason, specific reason why. I find it very interesting why Abraham was forced to leave his own home country. So the so-called Abraham religion, when you are leaving your own home country, which is so familiar, convenient, comfortable for you, what happens? Your life relies on the hospitality of others. Otherwise, you cannot survive. If you do not have any familiar people and familiar places that you feel so comfortable with, and all of a sudden you are living a life of diaspora. And then your life, what happens? Your life is really absolutely depend on the hospitality of others, and your life will be destroyed by the hostility of others. So this issue of hospitality and hostility is grounded in this construction of so-called Abrahamic religion. Of course, my interpretation. And also, I want to make a suggestion to you. We have like 78 participants for now that your background are so different from mine, and also your life journey has been really different from mine. But there is a kind of common denominator that you can find, I hope, that you have a kind of passion to make this world better. This may sound so abstract, but in your own context, every wish that we have is very context specific. But in a macro context, we wants to make this world of justice, equality, freedom, and peace for all. Not for the particular group of people based on religion, based on your ideology, based on your gender, based on your sexual orientation, based on your citizenship, but for all. I mean, all. So my motto, based on this cosmopolitan idea, is that everyone, everywhere. I hope that you remember everyone, everywhere. That's a kind of motto for my desire to make a change, the world of everyone, everywhere. And also we have to remember that whatever we are talking about, we have to de-romanticize. For example, okay, we have to welcome the other, or we have to love our neighbor as ourselves, and we have to love our enemy. I mean, all kind of rhetoric, we have to de-romanticize. We have to de-romanticize. When I say de-romanticize, when you romanticize something, what happens? Of course, I love to go to the romantic place, right? Romantic cafe. I mean, romantic places that you feel so good about everything. So you exemplify that life is so good, life is beautiful, love is beautiful, and you don't, you want to see all the bright side of the world. That's a romantic relationship. When I am in relationship with you, and then you romanticize the relationship, then what happens is that you don't want to see the dark side. of the person that you are in relationship. You want to see only bright side. So when you encounter the dark side, you feel like, oh, I don't love you any longer. So when we are talking about neighbor love, hospitality to all, we have to de-romanticize because nothing is simple in this complex world. So I'm going to touch those issues. And I hope that you be more intentional to get a kind of concept that I'm talking about. Because unless you become intentional, nothing, everything would disappear. So I hope that you try to remember, understand, and connect what I'm saying to your own life context with at least like a couple of concepts that intrigues you in one way or the other. But like I said in the beginning, we all have a different kind of life context. And in our specific context, what we have here is that how to make a change in the world where all kinds of conflict, war, tension, and discrimination and violence happens. What kind of seed for change I can plant in this world? And so you and I are, having that kind of desire to make a change. Otherwise, you would not spend time and energy in this, summer school of theology when you would have so many different things to do. So I'm going to talk about how this experience of displacement, experience of life of diaspora can mean in one's life. I don't believe in a diaspora in general. We all have two layers of our own life. One is generality and singularity. Okay, so we all have generality and singularity. What do I mean by generality? Is that, so as a Namsoon Kang, I have my life of generality has something to do with social sort of assignment. Okay, I'm categorized as women. I'm categorized as Asian, or I'm categorized as such. And sometimes it has nothing to do with my own personal singular things. So I have to deal with this generality of my own life. But at the same time, I have to remember that I am a person of singularity, which means I am irreplaceable. No one can replace me. So I am unique being in the world. So I have to deal with generality. So I have to engage in what's going on in this socio-political dimension. What are the institutional systems that really allow me to be who I am or prohibit me to who I am? And at the same time, I should not fall into a trap of generality. For example, you are more than Ukraine. You are more than diaspora. You are more than refugee. I am more than Asian. I am more than women. I am more than theologian. I am more than philosopher. I am who I am, and I am who I become. That's my sort of identity. Because when you really stick to this single identity, that I am a woman, or I am an Asian, I'm Ukraine, I'm theologian, I'm a pastor, whatever, then actually you are really confining yourself to this box of generality. So this is a kind of experience that I have been having. So how does your experience of being diaspora would function in your life journey? as a singular person. It is up to you. So there are two types of person who are living in a diasporic life. One is the person who make that diasporic life or life of displacement as an experience of despair, an experience of hopelessness. So one type of person. And the other type of person is the one that take this experience of diasporic life or experience of displacement as an experience of passion for the world to come. So you and I are living in a liminal space between these two poles, the pole of despair and hopelessness, and this pole of passion and sense of calling to make the world better. So it is up to us, each and every one of us, how to change, how to transform, how to take my own life of displacement to make either as an experience of despair and hopelessness or as an experience of passion for the world to come, for the world where peace, justice, equality, freedom for everyone, everywhere. So this is a kind of experience of displacement can function in your own life, and it is up to you what kind of experience that I will make, because I don't believe in experience in general, because each and every one of us take our own life experience and then we are responsible for our own life. So I hope that we share today's, through the sharing, I hope that we share this kind of passion for the impossible. So for me, religion is passion for the impossible. I believe that what is religion to you? I would say I follow this Jacques Derridian, definition of religion. Religion is the passion for the impossible. And at the same time, he says religion is a responsibility or it is nothing. I will write it down. Religion is responsibility or it is nothing. So what is religion to you? Religion in general and Christianity in particular. What is religion to you? That's a question that we, each and every one of us have to wrestle with. So using diaspora, I noticed that there are all the theorists who are engaging in this diasporic issues. We can have two types of diaspora. One is empirical, historical diaspora. So actually, those who are, either by force or by choice, who has to leave their own home country, they are becoming a kind of diaspora. But at the same time, there is diaspora in a metaphorical sense. So even if you are rooted in the home country of your birthplace, you can be diaspora. There's a kind of metaphoric diaspora because you don't absolutely, belong to the place that you are living in. Sometimes because of your theological position, sometimes because of your political position. Even if you are living in your own home country, you can be in exile. So there is a line that I was really touched by when I was listening to the radio while I was driving. Someone said, a poet, I do not catch what's the name of this poet. And she said, I am in exile in my own home country. And after return my study abroad, that's what I was exactly feeling when I returned to Korea after long years of study abroad. That's what I was exactly feeling. I am in exile in my own home country. Because whatever I do, it is too much for many people. Because I defend the rights of women, I defend the rights of sexual minority, I defend for the rights of religious other, other than Christianity. I defend for the rights of the racial other. So my sort of a position in the world, in my own country, I do not feel like I do belong here because most people do not see why I am doing what I'm doing. So I gave up being understood. So like Nietzsche says, I had to live on my own credit, not by the credit of others. When you are trying to make a change, mostly you are, in exile, even in your own home country. So my use of this diaspora can mean two things: the empirical, historical diaspora, and at the same time, metaphorical diaspora, who do not belong to where you are. So these two types of diaspora are so entangled in a way. And if I have enough time, I can share with you that all kind of biblical examples how you can be in exile in your own country, like Zacchaeus in the Bible. He's living, from my perspective, he's living in a diasporic life because he has been living of life of marginalization, my life of my exclusion, right before he encountered Jesus. So that's another kind of example that we can find in the Bible many different ways. So when we talk about displacement and diaspora, we have to see that somehow, even if you are living a life of diaspora by force, like by war, by conflict, by violence, sometimes you take this diasporic experience, the experience of displacement, in a way that it can really contribute to making your life more fully. And you can be the agent of your own life. That's up to you. So how do we expand our mode of seeing the world? I think if you are living in a life of displacement, you are drawn to this life as a whole because your life is relied on a kind of hospitality of others, and you see that how can I live well together? Because living is not living just in an island. You realize that living is always already living with others. And living with others, again, we have to de-romanticize because it have to engage in all the political, social issues that makes us live well together with others, not just familiar others, but also so-called strangers. So this living well together really helped me to get into this issue of cosmopolitanism. So this cosmopolitanism, there are a couple of sort of basic ground of cosmopolitanism is that, okay, so this cosmopolitan idea come from this Diogenes of Sinope. When he was asked, where are you from? Usually the template answer should be, I am from Sinope. I am from Athens, for example. But he replied, I am from Cosmos. I am from Cosmos. So that's the kind of origin of this cosmopolitan idea that world citizens or cosmopolitan citizens or global citizens nowadays are becoming so popular in this in USA. So if you look at the mission statement, all the university nowadays, even our university, a kind of global citizenship or global leader becomes a kind of catchword. But the origin is that I am from cosmos, meaning that we all have a kind of true sense of belonging. How about you? When someone asks you, where are you from? What would you say? So this when Diogenes of Sinope in Greek, world, I belong, you have a particular belonging, but at the same time, you belong to the sun. So you belong to the country of birth. And at the same time, you belong to the sun. So we all are the citizens of the world. So we all are fellow citizens, regardless of your citizenship. So I hope that this double belonging, the particular belonging is you belong to the country where you were born, the citizenship, your passport. At the same time, even if there is no passport, we belong to the sun. If you translate this cosmopolitan belonging into Christian terminology, what do you say? We all are children of God. So in a way, this theological terminology or Christian terminology that we all belong, we are children of God. If we translate into philosophical terminology that we all are fellow citizens, cosmic citizens. So even if our passport can be different from one another, if you locate yourself in a cosmos, we all are the cosmic citizens, meaning we are fellow citizens. So this cosmopolitan model is everyone, everywhere. I hope that you remember everyone, everywhere. So when we talk about justice, hospitality, peace, freedom, equality, we have to remember this should be everyone, everywhere. So that's a kind of point of entry of cosmopolitan spirit. So there is two cosmopolitan conditions. First, cosmic citizenship, as I said. And then second is equality of beings. This is a really revolutionary idea, that equality of beings, regardless of your gender, and all the list that we can come up with, gender, race, class, religion, your citizenship, your social status, your educational background, regardless, all beings are equal. That's the two cosmopolitan condition. And so you have to think about cosmopolitan hospitality in many different ways, because this notion of hospitality is really complex. So what are the words that comes to your mind when you hear the term hospitality? Can some of you just write down what is hospitality to you? You can share your idea, what is hospitality to you, because otherwise, okay, welcoming, offering food, safety. And then there is thank you for sharing. Yeah, gift, kindness, and encounter. Yes, that's great. And there is really interesting to see that Jacques Derrida offers a seminar on hospitality. And he would begin with this one line. I was really interested in this one line, that whenever he offered a seminar, he would begin the seminar with this one line. We do not know what hospitality is. Again, we do not know what hospitality is. Can you just imagine why Derrida, when he's offering the seminar on hospitality, why he would begin with this one line? So I was so curious to know why he said what he says. He is the sort of expert in hospitality issues, but why he would begin and remind his audience or student that we do not know what hospitality is. So first, his statement, we have to think about this, hospitality. There is a paradoxical aspect of hospitality. In a way, the double bind of hospitality, that's the first thing that we have to think about. Double bind of hospitality is a necessity and impossibility. For example, how far, hospitality is about host and guest, right? Host and guest. And then you have to think about how far we can really welcome the other. How far? And when you say guest, usually hospitality is by invitation. So for example, I cannot just say, I cannot invite myself that, okay, Ksenia, how do I pronounce your name? Ksenia? Should I pronounce K or no? No K. Yeah. I cannot just invite myself, okay, tonight I'm going to stay at your place. Then you would say, what are you talking about? I didn't invite you to my place. So there is a reverse of genuine hospitality. It's not just by invitation, but also by visitation. And Jesus shows this example, reversing this traditional understanding of hospitality, done by host. When I hope that you know the story, Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus, I don't know. This biblical name have a different pronunciation each countries. Zacchaeus, the short person. And Jesus, if you look at the biblical text, Jesus invite himself to Zacchaeus' place. He says, the only thing that Jesus says to Zacchaeus is, Zacchaeus, come down. I must stay at your place. That's the first line that Jesus says. Jesus didn't say to Zacchaeus, thank you, Roman, to spelling the name. Jesus didn't say, Zacchaeus, I know what you have done, so you have to repent. No, there's no judgmental statement or preaching or whatever. The only thing that Jesus did was offering himself to be the guest of Zacchaeus' house. So Jesus is reversing the traditional perception of hospitality of host and guest, the rigid line between host and guest. He's really transgressing this rigid line between host and guest. So Jesus is inviting himself to the Zacchaeus place. And then what happens? There was a miracle happens. Zacchaeus becomes a subject of transformation by this hospitality done by Jesus. And I think there is a kind of Jesus gaze looking at the Zacchaeus who has been living a life of marginalization, life of exclusion, life of judgment, life of nobody. Even if he may have lots of money, his life must be always life of exclusion by others. And all of a sudden, Jesus was offering his time and energy by inviting himself to Zacchaeus' place. I think that Jesus was smiling at him, right? Even if the Bible doesn't really convey what the Jesus was facial expression to Zacchaeus was. So first, when Derrida said, we do not know what hospitality is, first we have to think about the double bind of hospitality, the necessity, but at the same time, impossibility. Can I invite all the people in the world to my place to welcome the other? It is impossible for me to open my door always to all the people in the world. That's the impossibility. So we have to wrestle with this question, how far I can really offer myself to the guest, and what are the things that I cannot do as a person. So there is a double bind of hospitality. And second, the Derrida says we do not know what hospitality is, that this not knowing is really important because there is a huge disparity between the unconditional hospitality and conditional hospitality. Again, the huge disparity between the unconditional hospitality and conditional hospitality. We can say that unconditional hospitality as ethics of hospitality, whereas the conditional hospitality as politics of hospitality. We talked about through, all the lectures of this summer School of Theology, that refugee issues, how far we can open the borders. The unconditional hospitality is really, we do not need any borders. We have to welcome all the refugees. That's the unconditional hospitality. But in the context reality, you cannot just open the borders to everyone, everywhere. That's our dilemma that we have to wrestle with. How to narrow down this huge disparity between the conditional hospitality and unconditional hospitality. That's the second reason why Derrida would begin his lecture or workshop on hospitality with this one line: we do not know what hospitality is. And third part that we have to think about is this significance of not knowing. Because when you say, I know, this knowing is in a way dangerous. Even if you do not know who the guest is, even if you do not know what kind of consequence that I have to deal with after you open your door, you have to embrace what's coming. So still, we do not know what kind of hospitality that I am engaging in. So Derrida is reminding us these three nature of hospitality by saying we do not know what hospitality is. So I'm going to share a couple of points that we have to continue to think about. So this double bind of hospitality, and then there is a tension between private hospitality and public hospitality. There is the story, actual story in 1997 in France. A French citizen named Jacqueline Deltome, I don't know how to pronounce her name. She got arrested by the police because she invited so-called non-documented migrant to her house to practice hospitality. And she was criminalized because of her personal hospitality, because there is against state law that if you meet a non-documented worker or a migrant, you have to report to the police. But she invite this non-documented, so-called illegal workers to her house to practice her hospitality. So what would you do when you try to practice your neighbor love, welcoming the other, your hospitality is in contradiction to what state asks you to do. So there is such a realistic tension between private personal hospitality and this public state hospitality. So that's what we have to think about. So she was criminalized. She became the criminal. There is a huge demonstration and protest against this police action to arrest her. But still, she was not released by this protest. So this is a kind of vivid the example how we have to deal with this tension between my personal private hospitality and the state public hospitality. So these are the aspects that we have to think about. And again, what I'm talking about, this when you are displaced, either by force or by choice, you have to, your life is relied on the hospitality of others. And then when you talk about this hospitality, you have to again de-romanticize because the hospitality issue is so complex. For example, in the Bible, because of time constraint, I will be really quick. In the Bible, there is two biblical text, the Genesis 19 and Judge 19. These two texts are kind of, in a way, exemplary text of so-called Abrahamic hospitality. If you remember the story of this hospitality in Genesis 19 and Judge 19, there is a kind of traveling sort of a scene. Do anyone remember this story? The Lot invite the guest to his house, and then the people in the town, they were asking Lot to release the guest so that they can do whatever they want. Then what Lot has done? Do you remember? He said, okay, he said, okay, Lot offers his daughter to the men of Sodom, both young and old. All the people to the last man surrounded the house. Genesis 19, chapter 19, verse 4. In order to offer hospitality to two male guests. Okay, Lot said, look, I have two young daughters who have not known a man. Let me bring them out to you, and do to them as you please. Only do nothing to these men, for they have come under the shelter of my roof. So in order to protect two male guests, as a host, Lot offered his daughters. So can we see this scene of hospitality to two guests can be the scene of hostility to his daughters. There is no voice of daughters or of mother, what they have felt at this scene of hospitality that they experienced the extreme hostility. And this case is the same in Judge 19. What do you think about? What do you read whenever you read this Bible text? What do you think of? What kind of hospitality that we have to think about? So in Judge 19, it's the same. A Levite, a guest. And then in order to protect the Levites, the host says, no, my brothers, do not act so wickedly. Since this man is my guest, do not do these vile things. Here are my virgin daughter and his concubine. Let me bring them out now. Ravish them and do whatever you want to them. But against this man, my guest, do not do such vile things. Judge 19. What kind of hospitality that we have to think about? So that's why. So there is a new term. I hope you remember this term. Hospitality. Long ago, I was giving a lecture. I was a speaker for the perhaps 400 pastors. Most of them are the English speaker. I was the perhaps only speaker whose mother tongue is not English. I just used one slide for my PowerPoint. I write it down, this term, this auto correction, hospitality. I wrote this hospitality, and I asked audience whether anyone knows this term, hospitality. 400, around 400 pastors, most of them white, most of them whose language is English. Nobody raised hand. And they began being curious. Hospitality, what does it mean? That's the term coined by Jacques Derrida. This is Judge 19 and Genesis 19. This scene of hostility and scene of hospitality are entangled. So in a way, you have to, as a person of displacement, your mode of seeing should be always double. In the scene of hospitality, you have to see if there are any scene of hostility done to others. So hospitality, by this new term, Derrida is trying to say that there is an entanglement of hospitality and hostility. So we have to think together all the time. So our mode of seeing should be double. You have to see not only center, but also the margin. Who is being used as a victim of hospitality to someone, and she becomes the victim of hospitality for others. So for them, for women, in these two Bible verses are that the women, their experience was extreme hostility in the name of hospitality. So these two Bible chapters are talking about the entanglement of hospitality and hostility. So you have to see that this, Trumpian era, Trump is really strengthening the border because he's trying to be hospitable to the Americans, to make America great again. So many people who are really buying into this Trumpism, Trump is really hospitable person to them. But in the name of hospitality for the citizens of the United States, Trumpism is exercising such an extreme hostility to the others. So we cannot, just romanticize that we have to welcome the other, because in the name of welcoming the other, who is experiencing this, extreme hostility, we have to see all places, not only center, but also margin. So this biblical text really shows us that this complex issue of hospitality are our own reality. So what kind of hospitality that we are talking about? Because nowadays, who is becoming host and guest? And so there is always the dilemma of that we have to wrestle with. And I regard that Jesus as a cosmopolitan. What he has been doing is practicing cosmopolitan hospitality and responsibility. This is my interpretation. So I know that if you read the biblical text, if you read the biblical text, like Jesus offering himself, nowadays we call it Eucharist, right? I think this is one of the exemplary case of unconditional hospitality, the Jesusian unconditional hospitality, because when Jesus offer, this is my blood, this is my body, what does it mean? As a metaphoric sense, even if you offer your body and blood, what do you mean? You are giving yourself, you are offering yourself, the entire being, to the other. We are not talking about cannibalism, right? You are eating the body of others, you are drinking the blood of others. No, this is in a way very metaphoric, a kind of, that has a profound meaning of what do we mean by offering myself to others, welcoming the others unconditionally. Because hospitality becomes more like economy of exchange. It is really interesting. If you Google hospitality, there is a hospitality sort of the enterprise, like a hotel, cruise, something that requires a kind of economy of exchange. When you get into the hotel lobby, they would welcome you with a smile, but as long as you pay money. So without money, there is no hospitality. So the dilemma that we have to wrestle with is how far we can offer ourselves to welcome the other as a person or as a community or as a society, as a country, state, nation state, how far we are willing to offer ourselves. That's a huge question that we have to deal with. So I think that we have to, I know that we have to close our session soon. So what I am trying to convey you is that somehow our experience, you are the one, you are the agent, you are the author of your own life, whether you are displaced by force or by choice. We have to make our life better, and we have to make our world better, where everyone, everywhere can really enjoy of the life of dignity, life of freedom, and life of hospitality, and life of justice for all. That's the point that I want to really share with you. And also what other characteristics, actually I provide so many lecture notes to share with you. And now I have to embrace my own sort of incompleteness, because I feel like I have done just half of my lecture note, but it's okay for me. So I will just close my lecture with sharing what are we to do. We have to be first a daydreamer. We have to, night dream, we are not in control, but daydreaming for the world to come. Daydreaming for the world to come. So first, daydreamer. Let's become a daydreamer. Second, critical thinker. We have to be a critical thinker. Because critical thinking, without critical thinking, we are committing to the evil against others. So this crime against humanity is really important reminder that as long as we are thinking critically, we are becoming involved in lesser evil in the world. So, and then third, we have to be a responsible reader. For example, when you read the Bible, when you read all the text, you are not reading just line by line. We have to read critically. Like as I shared Judge 19 and Genesis 19, reading the Bible is not just reading literally. We have to think critically what's going on in the Bible text. What kind of implication that I can retrieve from this Bible text? So we have to be the responsible reader. And 4, we have to be border crosser. What I mean by border crosser is that we have to cross the borderline, the unnecessary borderline, as Jesus did, border crosser. And 5, the person of courage. You know that I was being too ambitious when I was preparing for this lecture. I have so many things that wants to share with you. So I'm just quickly going through my lecture note. So person of courage. And courage means is that the opposite of hope. I think opposite of hope is the lack of courage. So Paul Tillich, his book, Courage to Be. We need a courage even to exist. So let's be a person of courage. And then 6, the compassionate disturber. Somehow, when you are not just accommodating yourself to the status quo, you have to be the compassionate disturber. You have to disturb the ideas of others when the ideas are really encouraging the exclusion, domination, and violence. You have to disturb them. So I think Jesus was a compassionate disturber. So many people who encounter Jesus, they are disturbed, like Nicodemus. He was disturbed deeply. You have to be born again, for example. And then 7, you have to be the practitioner of our own humanity. Even if you may know a lot of theories and theologies that justify what you are doing, unless you are able to practice your own humanity with the other that you encounter, all the theories and discourses it doesn't have any point. So we have to, ongoingly practice our own humanity. That's a kind of practicing religion. For me, practicing religion, certain religion, particular religion, is a way to learn how to practice my own humanity that is given by God, whatever you name it, the being, the ultimate being. And the 8th, am I being too ambitious? The 8th, we have to be an artist of persuasion. We have to persuade myself first, and then we have to persuade others to join this really important cause of making the world a better place. So I think I have to stop here because I know that you have to have some time for Q&A. So even if I didn't finish my old lecture note, let's embrace our own imperfection, incompleteness, and I hope that you remember just one thing. A small change can make a big difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Namsoon Kang, for your lecture and for your encouragement and bringing faith to the summer school of theology, because sometimes we do forget about things like that. And that's true that to speak about phenomenology is quite difficult just to put everything into like very clear structure. So we do have some questions, many questions from our participants. And you've mentioned already about this relationship between host and guest. So the question is from our colleague from the Ukrainian Catholic University, Oleg Pravets. When I was in the US, so you need to go up. So I will start with the first question. When I was in the US, I also asked other students on campus where they were from, but that didn't mean I was the host. Some students were from other states, others from abroad, like me. In any case, can't guests ask each other such questions?
Of course, of course. That's why I said, who is this question and what kind of implication it would have? And when you say when you ask the question, where are you from? That can be the question of curiosity, right? And then it implies that you want to know more about the person. But when the question was asked by the person who thinks that they are the center of this society, and then it implies that he or she is claiming the ownership of this place, that whereas I belong here, you do not belong here. So the question can mean so many different things.
True, thank you. There is a great comment from the Andrei Cherney. According to Derrida's radical hospitality, one should not question the name or identity of xenos, stranger. Putting a question presumes that the stranger owns the answer to the host in return for their hospitality. That puts them into conditional social agreement. Also, the stranger's identity could bring additional background that inevitably would shape the dynamics between them. Do you see that comment?
I'm trying to find the comment.
When you started to speak about generality and singularity.
Okay, let me see. Okay. Why should I question the name or identity of, a stranger? So the stranger's identity could bring additional background that inevitably would shape the dynamics between them. What your comment is, of course, every questions and every rhetoric has its own context. And Derrida hardly make any kind of general comments. And so we have to think about, you do not ask this name. No, you cannot make as a general sort of guideline. Sometimes, what is your name? If you are smiling and asking this question, what is your name? It is a question of curiosity, question of hospitality. But so when the xenos, I mean the so-called foreigners, when you say you should not ask the name, that does not mean that you should not ask the name. When here, I mean, Derrida hardly say any kind of general guideline that you are not supposed to ask a name. Of course, you ask the name. But what here, when you ask a name, I mean, face precede names. Even your just existence itself is enough for you to exercise your hospitality. When Immanuel Kant talks about cosmopolitan hospitality, he says there is only one condition about the guest, that you have to welcome the guest. The condition is not just name or citizenship, but condition is as long as you are residing on the surface of the earth. So that's the only condition. As long as you reside on the surface of the earth, that's your right as a human being to receive the hospitality by others. So I hope that you can really connect what I'm saying now, that as long as you reside on the surface of the earth, that's actually everyone, everywhere ethos. So I will just respond to your comments.
Yeah, thank you, because you responded also, or like clarify something that I have, because the name and the relationship, I like asking the name, that was also for me always something that I didn't understand clearly, but thank you for that clarification. We have to move because to the next comment and question, because we do have many and I would like to cover as many as possible. So we have the question from our participant from Brazil. After long years in Asia, when I came back to Brazil, I thought I was coming back home, but surprisingly, I felt like a stranger in my own homeland. How can we develop a sense of belonging when we don't feel belonging at all?
Yeah, that's a really wonderful question that I have wrestled with, in my life journey as well. And even though you do not see my study, I mean, there is a post-it that I put by Emmanuel Levin, Edward Said. He says, I find home in my own writing. You have to develop your own sense of belonging. And sense of belonging is not just a single belonging. I mean, so your sense of home, you have to really redevelop and invent your sense of home. It's not about a zip code, postcode. It's not about just a physical place. You have to really invent, create your own sense of home in your own way. For example, for me, my study, when there is any my desk, that's a kind of gives me a kind of sense of home, because that's where I really engage in the world through my work, reading and writing. You have to make your own sense of belonging, because somehow, again, de-romanticizing this notion of home, and in a way, you can make everywhere your home, and nowhere is your home. Your home is nowhere. At the same time, your home can be everywhere. That's my sort of strategy to live a life of non-belonging at the same time belonging, everywhere. Of course, you can find your own way of developing sense of belonging in your own way. This is my own way of, developing my sense of home and belonging.
Thank you for sharing. We do have many questions also on cosmopolitanism. Oh, that's a hard word to pronounce.
Yes.
From Taras dad, like, because as you say, there are a lot of romanticization around this notion. You do cover in your works, and you do deconstruct also this idea in your works. But the question is from Taras Dyatlik, the vision in Revelation 7:9 of a great multitude from every nation, tribe, people, and language is often understood as the church's ultimate missional mandate. It commands us to embody a radical multicultural unity here and now, creating a global community of hope. Here in Ukraine, this mandate creates a profound theological tension. Our survival as sovereign state depends on fostering a powerful, unified national identity in the face of Russia determined to erase our culture, language, and nationhood. How could Ukrainian or other in a similar context theology hold in the tension its missional mandate for a global multicultural community of hope with the existential necessity of particularistic patriotic identity for national survival? And he adds the comment, so I will just read it quickly. So, is the ideal of planetary love truly a path to justice and just peace, or is it a new, subtle form of imperial meta-narrative? Does this cosmopolitanism in practice risk becoming a tool of cultural homogenization that erases the unique languages and cultures of peoples like ours? In short, does it demand that Ukraine transcend its identity for a global ideal, while more powerful hegemonic nations are never asked to do the same like Russian?
Yeah, I think the comments and questions are really complex. I may need another hour to engage in the comments. I really appreciate that kind of complex comments and questions. Briefly speaking, because of this time, constraint, I do not have any sort of illusion to offer the grand answer to the question that we are wrestling with. I also, as I'm negotiating and I'm making all kind of negotiation in life. But one thing that I want us to remember is that we are living in a liminal space. So on the one hand, you have to remember the world of already, right? World of already, in which all kinds of discrimination and tension and the war and violence have been happening still. Especially I don't have any kind of position to say I know what you are going through in Ukraine. No, I don't have any such a position. But so we are here. We have to remember this one pole, the world of already. On the other hand, the other pole, the world of not yet, the world to come. In Christian terminology, the reign of God, right? And we are living in this liminal space, in this between space. And this in between space, the liminal space, I hope that you take this liminal space not as a space of despair, but as a space of prophetic calling. But you have to remember not only the world of already, but at the same time, the world to come. So we have to remember the future. That's why Jesus kept mentioning about the reign of God. What is the reign of God on earth would mean? So one thing that cosmopolitanism is different from the universalism. People usually get really confused with the universalism. Whereas universalism begins from above, right? The cosmopolitanism begin from below, because the point of entry of cosmopolitanism is the ethics of singularity, the each and everyone's face. There is no like a human being in general, no. Like your name, Tony, Jane, Levi. I don't know, forgive me if I pronounce your name, incorrectly. I just read the name on the screen. Arif. This all the proper name with a singular face, which is irreplaceable. That's the point of entry of cosmopolitanism. So cosmopolitanism is not just abstract universal idea of all we are the fellow citizen. No, each and every face of singularity. That's the point of entry of cosmopolitan idea, that each and every one of us, actually, we are the fellow citizen. We are the children of God, regardless of your race, skin color, gender, whatever. We are the children of God. That's the confession that you make in the church, right? We are the children of God. And philosophical terminology is that we all are the fellow citizen. That's the cosmopolitan idea, that we have to really transgress all kinds of borders of nation states or religion to think about how to live well together. That's the cosmopolitan hospitality that we have to think about.
Thank you. I will share with our participants some reading recommendations where they can dive deeper in this topic, because you do write a lot on this and all the tensions, paradoxes. You deconstruct some how to say, very common perceptions of cosmopolitanism or hospitality. So I will share those reading recommendations, and I will add them to our file that we have for the entire summer school session. I would like to voice some questions from participants that will ask us for the first time. So there is a question, it's fourth from the last one, from Mohammad Rubanenko, about the deconstruction and politics. So if deconstruction is grounded in radical openness, in a logic that unsettles fixed identities and crosses conceptual boundaries, how can we explain that today there are so many right-wing forces gaining strength while promoting exclusionary projects like walls, deportations, travel bans, all in the name of defending national values? Why are right-wing movements, the figure of Trump and populism, which reduce everything to simplistic oppositions, so popular among those who otherwise claim to oppose totalitarian thinking? An ironic paradox. Isn't this a complete inversion of deconstructive thought, from questioning borders to reinforcing them? And from the perspective of deconstruction itself, doesn't this imply that we must give up the very idea of national identity as something fixed and defensible? And of course, how can we confront this contradiction not only theoretically, but also politically?
That's such a complex questions, and I think you are not the only person who wrestle with these ideas of why, and somehow this sometimes whyness. There is no why, and I think the question of why here, I think even God could not answer this question because so we have to wrestle with our own how to persuade people who realized that this world should be the world of everyone everywhere and not, this Trumpism, nationalism. I mean, because it really destroy our humanity. So I do not know why, but I think what I really want to do through these lectures and through what I do in my school or, wherever I go for speech and lecturing is that how each and one of us, how to be the agent for change in my own context. So we plant a seed for change. I think that Jesus was lamenting that all seeds that he planted are bearing the fruit of the seed that he planted. So I think he was really wrestling with this dilemma. Why there are so many people who do not listen to me? That I say, love your neighbors as yourself, but they hate each other. So there is no why. But what we can do is, what kind of change that I can make in my own context? So in a way, we have to invent this how-ness in every context that you are engaging in. No one can offer this grand how. But what we can do is this small how-ness in my own context. That's what we can do. So we plant the seed for change, and some seed you do not see the fruit of the seed that you plant because the seed can be dried out. And so that's what I can share with you. I always think about how can really make a change in my own context. I don't have any grand idea about how. And why? I think there's such an exemplary case of the absence of critical thinking, that why people are so drawn to this Trumpism, why people are so drawn to this right-wing statement of justifying all the politics of hatred and politics of exclusion. I do not know why, but what we can do is how to disseminate this idea of hospitality for all, and how to persuade myself and how to persuade others to join this really significant cause of living well together. So that's what I can offer to you.
Thank you, dear Namsoon Kang. We do have more questions and more comments, and I'm not sure that we will end like in the next even 10 or 20 minutes. I would like to read a comment that our interpreter left in the chat. It's like the first comment. I just tried to find it in the among all the questions and comments that you have. So Marichka interpreter, she says, thank you for your recognition of interpreters' work. On a side note, face of a speaker is vital for faithful transfer of message in interpreting, from better defining emotions to lip reading. It's always good to see faces. So thank you for being with us. Thank you for sharing your time. I know that you had very hectic summer, but you did find this room for us. So thank you. Thank you for this lecture, and thank you, participants, for your questions.
Thank you for your hospitality, and thank you for all you have done. I really appreciate your passion.
Thank you.